Hello, I'm Dr. Katherine Horton. I am just trying to record the attacks in my office. This is now inside a Faraday cage. And look at how this is flicking around. I'm being targeted directly. And when the targeting stops, this flicks all the way back down to green. Look at this. This is how I'm being shot at. Inside my office. This is now inside a Faraday cage. The radiation level, the normal radiation, as you can see inside the Faraday cage, has dropped down to 0.01 volts per meter at the bottom. The other stuff that you can see are directed attacks. That's what it's like being attacked, being shot in the head by these guys. That's what it's like. I just have the Faraday cage now. So I'll show you what my office looks like. You can see my office. There's no shielding around. I am just inside this Faraday cage. Can you see it? And now, clearer than ever, you can see how I'm being attacked. So green is what the radiation level should be like inside the Faraday cage, and what you can see is direct shots to my head. Actual focused shots. So there's an entire topic I've never talked about, which is scalar waves, and I haven't talked about it because I know absolutely enough all about them. But all I can say is when this stuff starts up, it's extremely painful. This is being shot into my body to cause maximum damage, essentially. And these are the attacks that I measured, in the assault video, where I said I'm being attacked every 60 seconds. This is it. So there's a video somewhere which is titled, I forgot the title, but it's like, I think hack attack and attacks every 60 seconds. And that's the video where you could see me live being shot in the kidney in a way that still causes pain. And every 60 seconds, every 60 seconds, a burst was fired exactly on the same second of the minute in that video. You can see a program, a script doing that. And this is now the attack. So these, because they are pulsed, as you can see, I cannot measure them with my antenna, with the other measuring device, because that's a sweep scanner, That's a sweep scanner. So this on the other hand can make the bursts visible and audible, but this measures in the range of 200 megahertz to 8 gigahertz. It's called the EM Fields Acousticom 2 electrosmog detector. This is not electrosmog, these are directed attacks to my head, as you can see here. This is what it's like being attacked by the military and the intelligence agencies. I'm now sitting inside the Faraday cage, and it's because of the Faraday cage that the radiation level is so low. Ow. This is essentially being fired into my skull from my neighbors. This is the Nazis in the intelligence agencies mutilating women. This is what it looks like. So I don't know if these are bursts of microwaves or if this is what's called scalar weapons. Sorry, I'll switch it off. I'll just let it here because the tone is kind of like, you can see it flash up as I'm talking. How shall I hold it? Shall I hold it like that? And essentially, so every single one of those is a shot to my head that is now degrading my brain. And these shots have been happening for now 11 months when they started shooting at me all out. This is done by the intelligence agencies. I emailed after a lot of these attacks. I have emailed because I wanted to start actual court action. That was back in April. I submitted a complaint to the Investigatory Powers Tribunal. And at the same time, I sent an email for cease and desist to the Bundesnachrichtendienst, German Federal Intelligence. What the German Federal Intelligence never replied to my email, but what happened is that my hip after that was damaged by targeted attacks. To make it absolutely clear that I understood that they couldn't give a shit, I basically, what happened, what they did to me is just a day or two later. So first of all, the next morning, I sent the email, I think at midnight to BND. The next morning, there were two German speakers in front of my home pretending to be from a Bible club, saying I should find my salvation in Jesus or some shit like that. Well, sorry, no, I don't mean the religious stuff. I don't mean that shit like that. But what I mean is that these people were clearly not from a Bible club. Because essentially I just said to them, no thank you, I've got no need for that, and closed the door. And instead of just going to the next home, these people essentially stood, and I've got that on film, just stood in front of I went upstairs, got my camera and filmed them. And they kind of sauntered away from my door and then stood in front of my home, absolutely clueless, and then had to make a phone call to somebody to find out what to do next. And these are all young chaps, so you know, when you see young men in their late teens or early 20s, you know, prime gang stalker. This is like the prime feed in to the intelligence agencies. And these young, you know, minions didn't know what the hell to do. Maybe they hoped that there would be a longer conversation, they could talk to me about Jesus, but whatever the hell. And anyway, so then on after this phone call, they were then probably told, okay, go to another house. And they rang one doorbell next to me. And then, you know, but by that time that cover was blown. And then they just walked off. I mean, not contacting other houses, they just walked off. So this was a stage theatre, but then I think the day after that, we flew, my husband and I, to meet my family in Spain for family weekend. And on the flight, I was sitting in my chair on the plane. And it's disconcerting seeing this, isn't it? I mean, you can see that there's non-stop shots. And I have to get with this because they're fairly small. If I hold this right into the beam, it will go up to max. If I don't catch the middle of the beam, might not hit all the way to max. You see, this one just went there. The other one went all the way to the top. So this is by the way, this is the neurological Zersetzung-Program. If you're an academic, they want to demolish your brain. So you will get shots to the head, you know. But anyway, I'll switch this off. I can't do anything about it. I'll put the shielding back in a second. So it is to explain to people the diffuse radiation. You know, Faraday cage might help a bit, but they crank up the power. The directed beams, yeah, with metal, you can you know, keep that out. But anyway, and essentially what happened after I emailed the BND is that these German speakers came up, you know, were in front of my door the next morning immediately. They didn't know what the hell to do. They weren't proper Bible club people. And then the next day, I flew with my husband to Spain, and inside the plane cabin, I suddenly had this intense, like a pain in the back of my head, and the skin on the back of my head started burning. And it's lifted at my hand, you know, I was about to go like this, and as I was lifting my hand, I heard the guy behind me say, Schmerzen am Hinterkopf in German, so pain in the back of the head, as you feel pain in the back of the head. So I turned around and he immediately quickly put something away. So I think these are probably handheld emitters or something like that. And then after that, during the weekend in Spain, my hip was demolished. My hip was damaged for good. In bed at night, they microwaved me so hard wherever I went, and at first I didn't know how they did that, but it was through the floor because there was a public bar below that. So they must have just placed transmitters down in bags, and you know, the radar maps it out and the software targets you, and they were shooting at me non-stop in that home. But at night when I lay down, my hip, I could feel the pain from below. My hip was microwaved so hard that they left permanent damage. So they left an incredible pain in there. And when I was in public, they kept shooting at my hip over and over and over, the same hip. I never had an injury. All I did is just sit in a plane and then get up and then, you know, walk around a city. Nothing special. But they went all out to go like, how dare you email us? Well, this was the BND essentially. You know, welcome to Stasi or welcome to Nazi land, you know, like total Gestapo people. And how insane is that? So this was before I went to the High Court, you know, and I sent the BND an email because I thought, I read somewhere that you have to notify the other party also in the German jurisdiction. So before you just sue somebody, you should just send a cease and desist to them, you know, and I did. But anyway, and you know, but these are the sort of attacks that you get, and you cannot block them out. So the Faraday cage doesn't block them out. They're extremely painful. And this thing about scalar waves, I don't know anything about scalar waves. And frankly, I'm so desperate right now. I don't have time to find a textbook and sit down and understand what it is. So I will just muse about scalar waves because people keep talking about them. And for those people who don't know what the hell this might be, I'll just put out maybe a little, I'm not sure, I think it's probably 80% there, but it might not be 100% physically correct, so in terms of the physics. But if you, essentially, as I understand it, scalar waves are even more powerful than anything that we have, and that's because anything like radio, microwaves, visible light, these are electromagnetic waves. Okay, so in principle, you've got an electromagnetic wave if it's just a single wave, you know, and you imagine a wave. And there, what will determine the characteristics is the amplitude. So is it, you know, a big wave, and the frequency, you know, is it like this really high amplitude but long wavelengths? You know, the frequency and the wavelengths is like how many frequencies, how many of these waves can I fit into the screen, you know, as I'm starting from here. Is it just one, or is it like, you know, 500, and so on. So these things determine the wave if you're talking about a single wave. However, if you're talking about a pulse, there's different pulse shapes that you can make up of individual photons, if you like. Now, every photon, every light, you know, quant, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, a particle or wave, has both an electric and a magnetic component, and these you can tune. So I suspect that scalar waves are essentially an electromagnetic wave, an electromagnetic pulse that is, you know, if you like, compared to photon, macroscopic pulse, which is overlaying several photons, which might have overall, you know, perhaps a large magnetic component, or different, you know, different characteristics, and overall the wave shape, you can also modify the pulse shape by superposing individual photons, just like you can make sound waves by superposing different individual frequencies. I think this is what it is. And then how do you explain the extra oomph that this wave might have, a scalar wave? Well, so this is kind of a hand wavy explanation for the people who don't know anything about physics and who might wonder why these scalar waves are just so deadly. Think about it like that. If you're now at a beach, okay, you're at a beach, and you walk into the water so that maybe the water reaches your knees or something, okay. If you're talking about smooth waves, you know, so the wave comes and it's essentially around your knees. It's like rising and then going down, and rising and going down as you're standing in the water up to your knees. You know, sometimes as the waves come, the water will rise and then it will go down. And all you will see if you're in a wave like that is it goes down, up and down around your knees, and it's fine. You can just stand there and enjoy, you know, the beach. However, if you now have got a high-powered wave with like a funky crest, you know, the ones that are so big and turn over themselves, you know, then if a wave hits you like that, you know, one that's breaking even, it might knock you off your feet. And if a wave like that hits you, even if it's not very high, even if it just hits you, you know, just above your knee, it might have enough force to actually knock you over. And the reason why it has enough force to knock you over is because as soon as a wave starts breaking and starts rolling, it has got an angular momentum, it has got extra energy. And it's not just an up and down thing anymore, it has actually angular momentum rolling towards you that will knock you over tangentially as the wave just, you know, imparts its angular momentum on you. So you will be literally knocked off your feet by the angular momentum that this wave has. And this is just using water. Now you can use the same thing with air. You know, you can make, for example, explosions, or the shock wave from explosions more devastating by giving the wave extra oomph, you know, so that it literally just blows out your eardrums. And not just have a, you know, a sudden shock wave, but have a targeted, you know, longitudinal wave that will have extra components, extra angular momentum components. So that's certainly possible. And these scalar waves might be exactly the same thing now in the electromagnetic realm. So what you're doing is, superposing. Just like lots of little water molecules make up the wave that knocks you off your feet, you can, superpose lots of little photons and light particles or light waves to make one big pulse that can literally just, knock out your brain or damage your tissue. And I think this is what it is. So the ultimate game in my case is, and they don't even care about my activism. I mean, I'm not actually dangerous. All they really want to do is shoot as many waves, scalar waves, if these are scalar waves, as many shots into my body as they can, and then just check for what type of cancer do I get, and when do my eyes stop working, because they also shoot these into my eyes. And they'll just keep shooting. So what I have to do now is I have to put back the shielding outside the Faraday cage, and then again sit back down to try to block these out, because actually sitting in here is unbearable. And it was shots like that got fired into my knee that damaged my knee permanently, So it's basically this. Now I'll show you one more time. So this is, on itself, there's no radiation. No radiation in my office. Green light, as low as you've ever seen it, on 0.1 volts per meter. As soon as I move this close to my head, I get shot in the head. Do you see? That is neurological Zersetzung by the intelligence agencies. It's this thing. And they will also shoot at your thyroid there. Did you see that? So there were shots being fired on my thyroid, which I could feel. And it's just trying to demolish you inside your own home. These are the shots I'm getting to my body. Here, in this case, right here. Because it hurts like hell. The beeping you can hear is the targeting, the hum. I think that might be literally the targeting. And look at that. And here you can actually see the attacks. Shot in my face, in my teeth, in my eyes. There you go. And on it goes. And if I switch this off, and you don't realize that there are these attacks on me, wow. So you can hear how sometimes it's like, sometimes it rips through. It sounds like, sometimes this hard clicking as the intense pulses come in themselves. You see? And these are extremely painful. I mean, now I'm not writhing in pain, but I tell you that here this really hurts, because my thyroid is one of the things that they want demolished, utterly demolished. Because your thyroid also produces hormones, so if you're a woman, you kind of need that, and it's just utter destruction. So, and if I switch this off, and you cannot see that there are all these shots being fired. They're also being fired into my stomach and so on. If I put this away, and there's nothing, you can't see anything, silence, and I'm telling you, I'm being shot at, I'm being shot in the head, I'm being shot in the face, and I was just shot in the stomach, and it really hurts. You will just think, crazy lady, oh, why does she have all the aluminium behind her? I just keep hearing like, oh, but the aluminium, it's just like, doesn't do your credibility any good. Are you fucking kidding me? If I tell you that I'm being shot at with pencil beams, and I'm not even trying to put like metal between, myself and that attack, I would have no credibility if you understand physics. So anybody who says that clearly hasn't got their head screwed on, or is a shill, because you don't understand. And yes, metal might not block out everything, but I'm telling you, I did have the back of my head cooked. I know that they are also positioned on that, behind that wall, as in, on that, from that direction. And yes, I will be attacked if I don't have metal. And right now, what I'm going to do, because this just started up and I just received a shot into my heart, is I'm going to put the shielding panels back up. get them from the bedroom where I had to put them up to be able to sleep last night, and I moved them again into here. You see? So this is real. And if you don't have the right measuring devices, and this only covers 200 megahertz to 8 gigahertz, and the military kit might be using other frequencies outside this, you don't understand. But it doesn't mean that this is not happening. I can turn it back on, and then suddenly you realize, hang on, crazy lady is talking about exactly what you can see and measure. And this thing is a scientific measuring device. And these are the shots I keep getting to my head. This is not normal. Getting these things ripping through inside a freaking Faraday cage is not normal. You can see the Faraday cage working because it jumps back to essentially zero. And then this stuff rips through and is hitting my head. Do you see? And this is why I really ask you to write to the German ambassador, and I ask you to write to the head of MI6 and say to the head of MI6, game over, it's now public. You know, whatever happens to her, whatever cancer she gets, we know it was you. Whatever damage, whatever neurological degradation, whatever heart problem, you know, you give this fairly young woman, it was you. And I tell you, I tried to write to the BND and they just took the piss. If you don't really want to, you know, send them an email because you're scared of them, send them a letter. You don't have to write your address. Say, I want to keep it anonymous because I think you're a bunch of criminals. You know, do that. Just send. But, you know, the German ambassador, he's not a criminal. But these people need to get on the case. And it has to be shut down because this is now public. And, you know, whoever has got the time to educate me. Oh, yes, scalar weapons. That's what I wanted to say. I do need education about scalar weapons. I'm not an expert. So either, you know, Dr. Robert Duncan or Brian Q or whoever knows about it, put something out. The other thing is also that there was a German scientist who actually researched scalar waves himself. He was one of the first people. And I remember that on one of the victim sites, he actually said, I now started being targeted myself with these. What's this about? And I'm withdrawing from the research. So find out who that was. I think that was a German victim site. Find out who the scientist is, and maybe he can come online and explain to us what we're being attacked by. But that's basically it. So the attacks are ongoing, and I will get my shielding now.